Historically, over the centuries, religious organizations have been targeted for violence and crimes. Today, we've noticed in the last couple of years an increase in violence towards churches, towards synagogues, towards mosques, and to their leaders.
Churches see the stories on the news. They see the lone shooter, but they don't always realize that their greatest risk is usually from within their own congregation.
Parents, parishioners, members, people that are attending the church want to know what to do in the case of emergency.
The houses of worship tend to be target-soft environments. In other words, because of the nature of the fact that they're open to the public, to the world, to come in and worship with them. In addition, most houses of worship are also called a target-rich environment for pedophiles, for sex offenders, thieves, scam artists, and many others.
Embezzlement, or whether it's abuse of a child, or whether it's not being prepared to deal with a medical emergency or a weather emergency, or not maintaining their building in such a way that they have risks for people for tripping and falling.
By far and away, every church will have some type of medical or emergency response. They'll have a need to background screen all the people that volunteer.
All churches do have some risk that they're probably not dealing with, but there's something they can do about it. They don't have to sit back and be afraid and wait for something to happen.
And we subscribe to an attitude of philosophy that it's better to be aware and prepared than to have something happen and not know what to do. The House of Worship Security Network was the brainchild of retired U.S. Marshal John Kendall. He felt a dramatic need for houses of worship, churches, to come up with safety and security plans, responses to the types of risks or issues, concerns that would happen every day to like churches. That includes not only the things that are highly in the news, like the acts of violence and the shootings, but also more specifically responses to fire safety, child abduction, background screening, medical emergencies.
The House of Worship Security Network has been formed in large part to assist houses of worship of any faith that have challenges regarding their security and safety. We have had a number of houses of worship seek our help providing security, and many of them have the same problem. The first problem they seem to have is they don't have a lot of financial resources. And secondly, they don't have on staff typically the security talent that they may need.
Uppermost in our philosophy is that we need to be aware of the risks, we need to be aware of the threats that face houses of worship. Until you can become aware of the risks or the threats, little can be done to mitigate those things.
I find churches tend to need some improvement on is in that safety area, whether it's they don't know or they don't have people who are trained in CPR and first aid, or they don't have an AED, an automated external defibrillator. Those are things that a lot of times churches can take care of fairly quickly and really improve the safety for their members.
We understand that churches will have volunteers and that those volunteers may not be able to go to a standard seminar type class on a Saturday morning or a Friday evening or whenever it might be. So we offer the ability through our online interactive training, the flexibility and benefits of all that training that can be offered in a traditional seminar style format.
Then we have training sessions that are available online in different areas, such as, maybe that a church's need is for a medical team. Maybe a church's need is for better background screening for their employees and their volunteers. And then they can go online, they can take those modules that they get the most benefit for their individual church out of. and work through that module that usually tells them how to develop a process to write policies and procedures. It has samples for them to follow. It has information that tells them what the risks are normally in those areas and what kinds of things, both very low cost and expensive things. We a lot of times recognize that we have needs and risks, but we don't always know where to start or what to do about it, or we think it's going to be too expensive. And at the House of Worship Security Network, we try to keep the cost down and prioritize what kind of security related or safety related changes a church needs to make so that they're able to put the most money and the most resources into the areas that their church needs and not just what might be a generic need.
We have a command staff, a command center staff, that if you pick up the phone and want to dial up the House of Worship Security Network, it will be answered by a real-life person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we're backed by a network of federal professionals throughout the United States, through local security experts, high credentials, retired law enforcement individuals.
Well, we've taken on some partnerships with other security professionals in related fields to offer services either at no charge or at highly reduced costs. These services include everything from consulting to actual security technology acquisition to training, and even in crisis care, emergency planning, and so forth. So some of it is going to be available at no charge, and some of it will be nominal fees for the services.
We will do all the same things that all the rest do. We'll do the liaison with experts. We'll do a variety of security seminars and training, the typical things, including CPR, first aid, AED training. But we'll also do the things, we'll actually come out to the site if you're looking at wanting to perform like a risk assessment or a security audit. We'll go out to the site. We have a heart for the idea that churches don't have unlimited funds, and that God wants us to be good stewards of our resources. And we have that in our hearts and in our minds when we're working with others.
A lot of times when you talk about risk, people get scared because they become so frightened by all of the possible bad things that could happen. And a lot of times then they just decide not to deal with it. It's either too frightening or it's too overwhelming. And it really doesn't have to be if you've got that chain behind you of experts and support system that can help walk you through this. It's not something that churches need to shy away from dealing with because it's controversial or because it's difficult.
What the House of Worship has done is create a program where we are able to relate to various houses of worship through online training, a network of experts, a liaison, an association of like-minded people that we can get together through forums, through blogs, and discuss these varying issues of today.
Bad things do happen out there, and bad things can happen, but there are a lot of things that even small churches with a small budget can do to reduce and minimize their risk. And we can help them do that.